Welcome to Sales and Marketing Talk Show. Today we are talking about content and community with Mark Kilens from Drift. And I think it's very interesting to have you, Mark, on the show since you have built a great community at Drift. So great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I'm very much looking forward to the conversation. I know advanced B2B pretty well from my time at HubSpot. Miko and the team. I'm thrilled to be talking to you folks. And I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. So, we're, on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean because you're in Finland, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I love it. Both have a lot of snow right now.
Yeah. Great. Hey, great to have you on the show. And I think the one question that I always love to ask from my guest is the question why. And in the past, I've been talking with many guests about like content marketing, and I think many companies understand why content marketing is important. So I won't be asking that one from you, but I would rather be asking why companies should be investing in building communities, because I think that's something that not too many companies are doing at the moment still.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been ramping up. If you want to think of 2010 to 2020, the last decade, as the proliferation of content marketing, my estimation is between 2020 and 2030, 2030, it's going to be the rise of community, right? It's going to be the rise of community marketing. It's not really community marketing because number one, community is like a loaded word. I get asked all the time, what is community? Well, that's a whole other discussion. But at the end of the day, the reason why you'd want to build a community, I think it kind of boils down to three things. One is trust, right? Who are you going to trust more? A business or your friends or your, colleagues? It's kind of like in the United States, you have the federal government, and then you have the state governments, and then you have local governments. And it's very widely known through surveys and whatnot that more people trust the local government far greater than the state government, because the local government is made up of people that you live with, that you work with, that you interact with every day. Right? And I kind of equate that to like a community with a business, right? The business is the federal government, if you want to say that, right? Uses kind of, analogy. And then the community is the local side of it. And I really think that a community can help you establish really deep trust amongst your customers, potential customers, your fans, which kind of gets me to the second piece, which is I really think community is a great way to create new revenue, like revenue streams for the business by the creation of turning a fan into a customer and a customer into a fan. And I steal that from my friend David Meerman Scott. You know David Meerman Scott?
I've heard his name, but not like that good.
Yeah, you know his name though. Like he's like this prolific marketing, person. He's extremely smart in all things kind of human behavior. He's written many books. He was a big inspiration for just like inbound marketing in general way back. And he's recently wrote a new book called Fanocracy, and it's a great book. And he talks about this notion of, again, turning a fan into a customer into a fan. And I think really a community can give you that opportunity. So at the end of the day, it's like, you can say brand building, but it's all about, helping other people amplify something they're passionate about. Because like a community to be really strong needs to have a set of like a purpose, a set of beliefs, a set of values. And that's a lot of the times initiated, spurred by the business, who's trying to kickfire, start a community. And I think the last thing is a community for a business helps you get really close to your customers. And that is so important these days. You get a direct line of communication with people and you can really understand so much about them. Of course, people these days are, doing persona development most likely, or defining their ICP, but a community is going to really help you get to know the people, not just from like what's on a sheet of paper, it's part of research or whatever, but like you're really going to interact and talk with them. And I think the last thing that's kind of outside of my three would be just like the event that happened in the last 12 months, right? The the pandemic, which has forced us all to become very digital first, digital native type of people. A community is more important now than ever before because it's going to be able to connect people across the globe in a digital first way.
Yeah, great ideas, and I think very valuable information there. And actually, many people who are listening to this right now, I've asked like feedback in the past, and people always love like real stories, real case examples. And you at Drift, you have built this Drift Insiders, and I would love to hear like what has been the biggest challenges and learning from there that other people could have some great ideas from.
Yeah, I mean, Drift Insider is for sure Drift's, overall, community, and it's a brand. It's a brand that we're building within the Drift brand. But it's more than a community. It's really a place to help you learn, to help you, be inspired, to be educated, to be entertained in some ways, right? And it's all about helping you learn about marketing and sales, but the future of marketing and sales, and how is it evolving, and how can you be part of that future? So it's really a thing that's again the community fire. I think of these communities as like gigantic bonfires, right? That are really good these days because it's very cold where you and I both live right now in the northern hemisphere. So you want to have this like big bonfire created from the community members. We call them insiders. But what starts the bonfire? I think it comes down to content, right? So like, and content is going to be the thing that gets people to engage, to understand something, to then say, hey, I want to commit some time to learning more about this, or I want to not just commit, I actually believe in this thing, and I want to start to kind of spread that to other people. So I think it really comes down to content, and with Drift Insider, it's content, it's community, but at the end of the day, it's people coming together to help each other learn about the future of sales and marketing. And so a challenge, I mean, you asked me the challenge, right? It's like, how do you get started, right? You need to have this point of view. You need to have like a good story, a good narrative. For us, we created a category, conversational marketing and sales. We've now created a bigger category called revenue acceleration that conversational marketing and sales fits directly into. It's actually how you achieve revenue acceleration. But like we wanted something beyond just like this category in us. It's about what we believe fundamentally has changed, why you have to care about this, why change, why now, why drift to some degree, right? It's that classic three why framework: why change, why now, why your company. And you need a way to have a unique point of view in the marketplace that gets other people involved. That's one way to do it. There's other ways to do it as well, where you're just bringing people together that are very much passionate about this thing that already exists, and you're doing something to bring them together in a way that's new, different, unique, whatever it might be. So there's definitely a couple ways to do it, but the challenge is always just getting to that initial kind of 100. Really, I think of it as 1,000 fans, getting to 1,000 people to sign up. Drift Insider's over 35,000 members now, but that first 1,000 we had to work at.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the first 1,000 you have to do like a lot of work for that one. And I think it's good to do like manual work there, like really go one-to-one, have people join that way as well.
Agree. I mean, I think you should still do that, right? You probably do that with growing this show and other things that you're doing. I'm still trying to respond to every single person that is part of like the Drift community. I guess you could say my broader community. I never want to leave anyone without some type of response or engagement. And yeah, that's hard to scale, but we wrote a book at Drift. This won't scale. And one of the key lessons and learnings in that book is like, the one-to-one piece that you just mentioned is so important.
Yeah, exactly. Great book. Will recommend others to read. I read that last summer on my summer cottage, and great ideas there. And I think really like valuable things that you can like do straight away. It's not like these big weird things that you cannot make happen right away. But I think there's very valuable like information there.
Yeah, it's a great book to read again, right? Like it's a quick read and it's actionable.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mark, before you used to work at Drift, you were working at HubSpot as a vice president of HubSpot Academy. And now at Drift, you also have like something similar. You have a lot of like certifications on for example on conversational marketing, in marketing or in sales or so on. So what do you think? Like, why do you think certifications are a big part of content and community? And should every company be doing those, or how you should decide on that one?
I get this question so much. So have you taken any Drift or HubSpot certifications?
Both.
Okay. Why did you take them?
It's a great question. I think for HubSpot, there was two reasons there. One reason was that I wanted to learn about the subject, but actually the other one is, of course, that we are a HubSpot partner. So I wanted to learn more about that one, so I'm able to sell that one. And actually same on Drift, that I will learn more about like conversational marketing and conversational selling, but at the same time, we also help our clients use Drift. So I wanted to learn how to sell it. So I think that those two reasons were for both cases.
Yeah, those are great reasons. I mean, it's relevant, it's timely content, it's education that's important, right? To help your business grow and be successful, to help you serve your customers. I mean, at the end of the day, the most like fundamental reason why certifications can be pretty important for a company, depending on that company's aspirations. I always like say, like, what is your company's aspirations? Are you trying to be like, how big are you trying to grow your company? And like, how big are you trying to grow your audience? Like, what are you trying to do? Because like, you have to first ask that fundamental question when it comes down to like, do I want to invest in building one or more certification programs? So like, that's one thing. And then the other question is like, well, how am I going to use that certification program as a cornerstone content asset throughout the entire customer lifecycle? But outside of that, the fact that a lot of businesses have been doing it these days, and we saw this early on in 2010 and 11 at HubSpot. So I guess you could say we were somewhat like early pioneers in this, not the earliest, but early, is they don't teach these things. They being academic institutions, they don't teach this stuff anymore or never have. And second, the pace in which things change, it's very hard for them to teach. That being said, both Drift and HubSpot, have education partner programs where we're teaching this in the classroom and whatnot. So we're trying to fix that and solve that because we want to be part of the solution. But it's they don't teach it. It's really important in the context of being successful at marketing and sales today, and it's changing quickly. So if your business kind of fits into one or two of those or both of those kind of like situations, those camps, then I would say, yeah, you probably do want to look into building a certification course.
Yeah, great ideas there. And then I think like one thing that would be interesting to discuss is like how to know where you should be starting your things. And I went through your LinkedIn post in the past for these episodes, and I found one very interesting thing there. There was the 3 most important questions to answer that will serve as the foundation of your content and community strategy. And I personally got a lot of value there. There was the first one, what stage is your business? Then who is your audience and how do they buy your product? But could you talk us through that one a little bit more detail and maybe like give some examples on those ones?
Yeah, that was a recent post, and I'm glad to see you doing your research, you digging in. I like it. I'm gonna flip it to you. Like, so, like, what stage would you say like advanced B2B's in? Do you think?
I would say we are in a growth stage. We have our like processes on place. We have a lot of great clients already, but now we want to really scale up, grow like crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, those 3 stages I mentioned were starting, scaling, like you just mentioned, and then sustaining. So you're in the scaling stage, which is fantastic. You really want to start with that when it comes to your content and community strategy, because so much of it is going to be predicated off of resources, like that being like how much you're going to be able to dedicate for people, time, and money to content and community. depending on which stage you're at, right? And also, it's not just the stage, but it's also then like, who is your audience, which is the next thing we talked about, which is like your industry / vertical, ICP, buyer persona, right? All those things. And then it's like, who is buying your product in what way? It doesn't have to be just one way, right? Like you can have 2 or 3 different motions. Most, businesses that tend to grow have usually evolved to have, 2 or 3 of these different motions, either freemium, touchless, self-serve, with maybe the assist of 1 or 2 kind of sales conversations, more of like a 60-day sales cycle that's a little bit more transactional, maybe more solution-based, relationship-based, maybe it's more channel, right? But, if you look at, how fast you're trying to grow the business. So, like what is your top line revenue and or bookings growth, which goes back to the first question. How fast is that growing and how fast do you need to sustain it or want to sustain it? Who are you trying to get to buy the product and be successful with your product? Because more than ever, like your growth is going to be predicated off of your customer success. Another reason why to build community. So your community members can help make your new customers successful and pull in new customers at the top of the funnel, right? That's very important. The whole flywheel concept. And then from a how do they buy? It's like the strongest content leaders and community leaders are going to be deep partners with their sales teams at the business and their customer success teams. I cannot state that enough. And you want to see how you can help make the team more productive, remove friction from the experience, make the customer help the customer be more educated before the sale, right after the sale, in the magic window of the 60 to 90 days, that magic window of 60 to 90 days after someone becomes a customer, where their attention is probably the highest it will ever be on you because they're trying to get value from what they just bought. For some products, it's like, the first week, it's the most important, right? The first couple of days. But I'm thinking more SaaS businesses, right? 60 to 90 days. But like there's a lot of dimensions there. At the end of the day, like you need to be somewhat deliberate in setting up a community strategy, or you're gonna just be kind of throwing mud on the wall and seeing what sticks, which sometimes you need to do, but you need to do it in a way that's framed properly. And I think those 3 kind of questions with some sub questions that I outlined in my LinkedIn post, hopefully we can share with people. That's like a good mental model to think about using to get started or to evolve.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you have a lot of experience like working with B2B SaaS companies. And I think for many SaaS companies, is it, for example, HubSpot or Drift, you are like both serving like big enterprise clients where you need the like salespeople there, but then for like small companies you are selling like totally like on no touch sales model. What do you think? Is there some challenges when you have like totally different kind of audiences?
I mean, it's focus, right? The death of a company can a lot of the times be attributed to a lack of focus. Lack of focus then creates, you're trying to serve 2 or 3 masters. How do I invest? Where do I invest? Who do I hire? What's the thing what's more important in the short term and then long term? You got to make some hard decisions and trade-offs, right? Business is not easy. It's never easy. And I commend every entrepreneur, business leader at a business right now, right? Because like, this stuff is hard. It's hard, but it's also very like rewarding, right? It's a lot of fun, right? Especially if you're really passionate about it. And I think it comes down to how can you get more from, if you talk about content in this case, more from your content across, multiple motions. Like if you go back to certifications, for example, if you design the certification program with these kind of questions in mind, it should help both like your enterprise customers and more self-service. Does it Drift? It did at HubSpot, right? Like it doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, maybe a CMO, at a huge company might not be taking certification, but I can tell you that she, is going to recommend it a lot of the times to her team. And so it's like, okay, top down in that case versus, all right, someone on her team finds it and takes it and then spreads it within the team, bottoms up, right? And a small business who doesn't have the resources maybe, right? To learn these things or needs help learning these things, just like the CMO on a team can find it and just take it, right? And it's free and it's high quality and it's a lot of value in that. So it's just being very intentional. I think that the key, a lot of these things come down to intention with how you design your content and community. I'd argue though, like a community, right? You might need to do some unique things, possibly. I'm not saying you do, but if you have an enterprise business, right? What we do is we've created this drift ascend type of community, which is for like director, VP, and above level people at these larger businesses to get together and talk. We have the broader community. So what we've done is we've kind of created these sub communities within Drift Insider, and use that as a way to kind of focus on the right people. So you do need to think about how to create that sub community if necessary. And sometimes they just happen on their own. I've seen a lot of businesses like B2C and B2B where sub communities form on their own. A lot of these like now digital first fitness products and whatnot are having these sub communities form on their own just through the power of hashtag, right? So it's like it's something sometimes you have to kind of start it, sometimes it just happens on its own.
Yeah, great idea. I see you're getting excited about that.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm excited about all this. I hope it's I mean right now what we're doing is community building, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think one very interesting thing in like communities and content, what's actually been happening is that nowadays there's like so much things on the internet, and there's been like some paid communities and like paid content and so on. What is your thought on that one? Should there be like paid communities for companies?
What do you think? What does your gut say?
It's a great question. I think there should be. Maybe the question is that, is there some community that I'm like so sure about the value that I'm getting from there that I'm like willing to pay from that one? I think, for example, Dave Gerhardt, your like ex-CMO, Dave has big like following on. I'm not sure which platform is he using. It like.
Oh, he's using Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon. Yeah. But for example, I think there will be like a lot of stuff related to something related to that one in the future. But probably yes. But what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's a matter of expectations and value, right? And if you look at Dave Gerhardt's, how did that community get started? Content, right? It's like it goes back to content, right? Like so, it's a reason why. Excuse me. We have content community at Drift kind of together, right? Because it just makes a lot of sense, right? And it also makes a lot of sense from like internal training standpoint too, because what you're trying to ultimately help people get to with your community and content efforts is an outcome. Like, what is the outcome you're trying to help people get to? And sometimes that's the best place to start when asking some of these questions. Because you ask like, what's the most important question, questions to answer when building out your community strategy? And now we can say content strategy for sure. Like, well, what's the ultimate outcome? So if you can quantify that outcome for the person, and then you can say, look, if we charge someone X amount of dollars for this outcome and it's a 20x, 10x return, it might make sense. But then you have to outweigh the benefit. Are you limiting your growth of your business? It goes back to this starting, scaling, sustaining in your sales motion. Are you limiting the growth of your business by charging because you're kind of not tapping into the whole market potential? Because like some people will never just pay for it, right? So like the answer to me is both, and we actually have both. We have Drift Insider and Drift Insider Plus, which is $100 a year for the exclusive content, access to other things. But like doing just one on the paid side, I think it could work, but it's it's something a business, I haven't seen a business do out of the gate from like a go-to market strategy standpoint. You know, there's almost always something free.
Yeah, great ideas, and I think that's great example what you guys are doing at Rift, like having the normal one and then basically like a premium upgraded version from that one.
Yeah, and we'll have membership levels over time, and I'd rather make the membership levels within Drift Insider earned, not you have to pay some money. Like I think of outcomes as, you know, a set of activities you do, you know, so well, not activities, sorry. So answers you can give, right? So like a certification, you know, course with an assessment, there's answers you can give, right? So, you know, validating your knowledge and understanding of something. So like answering, you know, something, fine. Then it's actions you can take. What is the action of you taking this knowledge, this understanding, and applying yourself? And then what are the results of that? And all of those like three things, like the answers, your actions, your results, or the outcomes that they create. Let's use those to create unique opportunities to stand out, to get access to things as part of these membership levels. And I think that's that's the future, in my opinion, of a lot of this. And I think people say, oh, it's gamification, you know, whatever, but it's like outcome-based gamification. Like, I think that's like tangible value-based outcome gamification, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But hey, I think we cannot talk about Drift without talking about conversational marketing at all, because I think you have created a category for that one. So at the end, I would like to ask you, like, what are your thoughts on like conversational marketing? Where is it going? Like, for example, in the next few years, why it's important, and like what is it?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. I mean it's super important. It's always been important, because at the end of the day, the way that you create a relationship with someone is through the power of conversation. Fundamentally, like we're having a conversation right now. I'm probably doing too much talking. I apologize. Like it's like, so like I am doing too much talking. So like let me ask you this. I'm throwing it back on you. How would you define conversational marketing? Because you got certified. You went through some of the content, right? You just mentioned that. So like I'll expand, but like how would you define conversational marketing?
I knew this was happening. Before I asked this question, I knew this was happening, and I was like, no, I'm not going to ask even this question. Great question. I think like conversational marketing is all about, like, for example, let's use an example. Like when a potential client goes to your website, that the site is not just there and the person is just like reading through it, but rather that the person can have a conversation with the site, tell what he or she is looking for, then the site can answer. And basically, like I said, like what we can do in like marketing, what we can do in sales in order to make like basically everything feel like a real conversation, like the same we are having here right now. I think that's like base over there, to give the most like valuable information to client in all stages.
Yeah, I love that. It's taking what we've done always in person and putting it into the digital, the virtual world, right? Like it's this relationship building piece that happens for someone to buy something from you. And it's conversational marketing is extremely important for considered type purchases, right? Anything above a couple $100. I'd argue though, like the conversational experience you could have with more of a transactional, like very self-serve, touchless transactional purchase is also important, because you might want to ask a couple questions that you're not able to track down on the website quickly, because it's a kind of a curse. We've created these massive websites in some cases, or we've made websites kind of hard to use. They're difficult. They're getting a lot better, don't get me wrong, but like we've created so much content, so much great content. Now it's like, where do I find the content? So can I use a conversational experience, a channel like a chatbot in this case, to help someone get an answer quickly to a question? And then if it's a more complicated question, or if they want to talk to someone, then yeah, let's get them connected to a live person, a live human. And let's make it easy to go from a messaging conversation, like a live chat conversation, to maybe a phone conversation, or to a Zoom conversation, like a live video conversation. Like all of those things are possible with conversational marketing. And I'd argue that's where you start to cross the chasm into conversational selling. But at the end of the day, conversational marketing, it's a real-time and personalized way to engage with your buyers and customers to help them buy. And for you, it's going to help you accelerate your revenue, right? Because you're making it easier to buy something, right? Change the way the businesses buy from businesses, right? That's kind of our mission for sure. And we fundamentally believe that the conversation is core to building a relationship with someone. Like, you can't build a relationship without conversations. And at the end of the day, like it's a 3-part framework, and I can explain an example. Engage, understand, recommend. Like, websites today, I would argue, it's kind of what you were mentioning. They're built for the marketer, not for the seller. So like you go to a physical store, like what's one of your, maybe we can't go as much into physical stores right now, but what was one of your most favorite places from a business to visit before the pandemic? Like where would you go a lot? Like what's a favorite store of yours?
It's a great question. I have a lot of favorite restaurants, so I would actually pick that. I would go to some restaurant here close by.
Okay. So you go to a restaurant, right? And what happens next? Like what was the experience like?
Well, I would say typically there is some person who is talking to me, asking how is it going? What would I like to eat or drink, and go from there.
Yeah, but it sounds like some of these restaurants you went back to a lot, right? Like they knew who you were, maybe? Like they kind of got to know you?
Yeah, there's one sushi place close to me that they know for sure who someone is.
I love it. I love sushi. It's fantastic. So that experience is unique because they're of course, recognizing you, trying to engage with you. They do engage with you. That sushi place actually, really got to know you. They understood who you were. Right, so they changed the way they greeted you. Right, they didn't just say like, "How can I help you?" It's like, "Hey, great to see you again. How you doing?" Like, "Sam, what's going on?" Like, "Hey, you want this? We have a new special today. You interested in that? We know you love Toro. Man, we know you love tuna, and we got Toro today. Anyway, right? We don't do any of that type of stuff on the website. It's just like, good luck, figure it out, have fun. It's choose your own. Like, just choose the link you want to click, right? And we want to just make it easier, right? We want to turn it into an experience that we really value when we're in the physical world, right? And we built websites for marketers. We built websites to be gatekeepers in ways, gatekeepers of information, right? That's why we're trying to democratize content. If you want to engage with your website visitors, don't gate your content, right? Start to work on ungating your content and use something like conversational marketing to help you recognize who's coming to the website and engage with them in real time. So I know that's kind of a long answer, but I think it was important for us to unpack it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's great example. And I think people will understand why conversational marketing is important and what is it. So it's great. Hey, then to our last stage of this LinkedIn Live. First, I have a question from our previous guest. I had Andy Lambert from Content Cal visiting me, and we actually talked earlier already about Dave Gerhardt. But the question is that Dave Gerhardt was the face of Drift for many people. They was very active on LinkedIn and other social media platforms as well.
Yeah.
But the question is that, do you see it as a risk if one person has too big influence for clients? And for example, have you been thinking who is going to be the next face of Drift? For personally, if I check out my LinkedIn feed, there is a lot of people from your side. But what are your thoughts on this?
It's a really good question. The answer is going to be yes and no. It's kind of both. It's a good thing to have someone be the face, especially when you're in the starting phase, right? You're starting it all up. Like you need one or two people. I would argue it was Dave Gerhardt, but also David Cancel. I mean, seeking wisdom, right? That's really how a lot of the momentum, a lot of the brand got started. It was even before conversational marketing became a category that we created at Drift, and now have really championed and led the industry with. So yes and no. The reason why I'd say, it can be a good thing. Or let me give you this example. To be really good at it, like you actually, and Dave did this for sure very well. He helped other people become advocates of the brand internally, right? So it wasn't like he might have been like the face, but there was a lot of other people at Drift talking about Drift, right? Like on LinkedIn, on Twitter, within the community. So as long as that person who's a champion also helps to create other champions, other advocates, that's okay. And they leave, that's fine. I mean, everyone has to grow, has to continue to learn, right? So it's like, has to take on the next challenge and adventure. Look at me at HubSpot, right? It's the same type of thing. It's a matter of like you being a leader and helping other people become now part of that. So for example, at Drift, we have Pat Timmons. He manages all of our social media, is an amazing leader of the social media, strategy platforms at Drift. And he's creating has created a social ambassador influencer program. We use a tool that's part of Sprout Social, which is the social media platform we use. It's called Bamboo. And we have now these Bamboo leaders across all of the departments at Drift that he now works with and is helping them to amplify who they are and their brand through the help of sharing Drift content. And then those people that are embedded into these different teams at Drift get their teams to hopefully share things about Drift across social media. And that's one way we can scale this out across a company that's going from 200 to 300 to 400 to 500-600 people down the road. So yeah, I mean, it's both, right? Like if you don't do it correctly, then it is dangerous. If that person is just the face, it's like, oh yeah, it's all about me, very ego, like, whatever. Yeah, I mean, they leave, something happens to them. It can be kind of risky, but I think you do it right, and most people do it right, the benefits outweigh it by a long shot.
Yeah, exactly. But I like totally agree on that one, that there's both yes and no in that kind of situation. I think for many companies there is the fact that there might be someone who is like a little bit above the others and is being like more active and more recognized. But it's like super important to build up the like basically the brand of most of the people inside the company. It really gives value.
Yeah. And do we have any questions from the audience? Is anyone like who's listening in? Any questions? Any comments? Like, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Or what do we?
We have thumbs up, and we actually got one giving added value to others and being close to your community will benefit everybody. Positive minds and rocks, and then some thumbs ups there as well. So it seems like we have been able to add some value for people. So it's always great. But hey, then lastly, Mark. Next guest, I'm having Sangram Vaire, host of Flip My Funnel and CEO founder of Terminus, coming to this show in 2 weeks. So what should I be asking him? Some hard one, please.
Yeah, I know Sangram. Yeah, I say hello to him for me. What's the future of ABM, of a company's marketing? Like he created it basically, right? At the end of the day, right? Like, so what's next? Like, where does he see it 2030? Like I gave you my prediction of community in 2030, right? It's going to be like table stakes. It's going to be like content today. Has to happen. Every business is going to have community membership experiences. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be prolific. What happens to ABM? And I'm super interested about this because I'll give you and him some context. Privacy. The death of third-party cookies. Privacy across, definitely Europe, but I mean, things are going to probably change a little bit, I would say, in America for sure. How is that going to impact ABM? How does he see it changing? Super interested in his answer.
Great. I will ask that one from Sangram. And at this point, thank you so much, Mark, for visiting this show. Thank you, everyone listening. And if you liked the episode, go ahead and share it on your social for your friends and your community as well. And have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.